Welcome back. Now that we've explored those philosophy-heavy approaches, let's talk about something completely different, the big chain preschools. And before anyone starts rolling their eyes about corporate daycare, hear me out. These programs serve hundreds of thousands of families across the country, and there are some really good reasons why they've become so popular. First, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, these are businesses designed to make a profit, but that doesn't automatically make them bad for kids. Some of the most successful chains have invested heavily in curriculum development, teacher training, and quality standards that many smaller programs simply can't afford. The key is knowing what to look for and what questions to ask. The Goddard School. Let's start with the Goddard School because they're probably the premium brand in the chain preschool world. Goddard positions itself as a step above typical daycare. And honestly, when you walk into a well-run Goddard, you can usually see the difference immediately. The Goddard philosophy centers around something called FLEX, F-L-E-X, which stands for Fun, Learning, Experience. I know, it sounds like marketing speak, but stick with me here. The idea is that children learn best when they're actively engaged in having fun rather than sitting still for formal instruction. So far, so good. That's actually backed by solid research. Here's what makes Goddard unique in the chain world. They're franchises, which means each school is owned and operated by local families who live in the community. This can be a huge advantage because you're dealing with people who have real investment in the school's reputation and success. The downside? Quality can vary significantly from location to location, even though they all use the same name and basic curriculum. The curriculum itself is pretty comprehensive. They call it the Wonder of Learning program, and it covers all the typical early childhood domains: social emotional development, language and literacy, mathematics, science, creative arts, and physical development. What I like about their approach is that they incorporate STEAM activities. That's science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, starting in the toddler rooms. We're talking about simple experiments, basic coding concepts, and engineering challenges that are actually age-appropriate and fun. The classrooms are designed specifically for different age groups, with materials and layouts that match developmental needs. Infant rooms have cozy spaces for feeding and sleeping, toddler rooms have lots of gross motor equipment, and preschool rooms are set up to encourage independence and choice-making. Now let's talk about what this costs, because Goddard is definitely positioned as a premium option. You're looking at anywhere from $1,200 to $3,200 per month, and that range isn't a typo. Location makes a huge difference. A Goddard in suburban Ohio is going to cost significantly less than one in downtown San Francisco or Manhattan. Most Goddard schools offer both full-time and part-time options, and many have extended hours to accommodate working parents. Some are open as early as 6:30 in the morning and stay open until 7 at night. They typically operate year-round, which is a blessing for working families but means you're paying for 52 weeks of care. What's included in that tuition? Well, usually all the curriculum materials, daily progress reports through their app, and some meals, though meal programs vary by location. Some schools include breakfast, lunch, and snacks, while others might only provide snacks and ask you to pack a lunch. Definitely ask about this up front because it can impact both your budget and your daily routine. Field trips and special events are usually extra, and these can add up. Birthday celebrations, holiday parties, and enrichment programs like music or foreign language classes often come with additional fees. Not necessarily a bad thing, but you want to know what you're signing up for. So, who does well at Goddard? Families who want professional management and consistent standards often love the franchise model. Kids who thrive with structure but also enjoy variety do well with their planned activities and enrichment programs. Working parents appreciate the extended hours and reliable communication through their technology platforms. KinderCare Learning Centers. Now, let's talk about KinderCare, which is probably the most recognizable name in chain childcare. They've been around since 1969, and they currently serve over 185,000 children across the country. That's a lot of kids, and it means they've had plenty of time to work out the kinks in their system. KinderCare's approach is built around what they call early foundations, which is their proprietary curriculum designed to prepare children for kindergarten classes. It's more academically focused than some of the philosophy-based approaches we discussed earlier, with clear learning objectives and milestone tracking. The curriculum covers 6 main areas: approaches to learning, social and emotional development, language and literacy, mathematics, science and technology, and creative arts. What I appreciate about KinderCare is that they're very transparent about what children should be learning at each age and stage. Parents get regular progress reports that show exactly where their child stands in relation to developmental milestones. The classroom environments are designed to be both educational and engaging. You'll see learning centers set up for different activities, blocks, dramatic play, art, science, books, and math manipulatives. The materials are typically high quality and age appropriate, though they might not have the natural, beautiful aesthetic of some Montessori or Waldorf programs. KinderCare teachers go through the company-specific training programs, and the curriculum is designed to be implemented consistently across all locations. This means your experience should be fairly similar whether you're in Maine or California. Of course, individual teachers and center directors make a huge difference in day-to-day quality. Cost-wise, KinderCare is generally more affordable than Goddard, but more expensive than many local options. You're looking at roughly $680 to $2,400 per month, depending on your location and your child's age. Infant care is always the most expensive, while preschool and pre-K programs typically cost a little less. Most KinderCare centers offer full-time and part-time enrollment, with hours typically from 6 or 6:30 in the morning until 6 or 6:30 in the evening. They operate year-round, and many locations offer drop-in care for families who need occasional flexibility. What's included? The curriculum materials, progress tracking through their app, and usually meals and snacks. KinderCare has actually made a big push towards healthier meal programs in recent years, with fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and limited processed foods. They also provide regular communication through their app, including photos and updates about your child's day. Who thrives at KinderCare? Families who want clear academic preparation and progress tracking often love their systematic approach. Children who do well with routine and structure typically adapt easily to their programs. Working parents appreciate the extended hours, multiple locations, and reliable backup care options if their regular care center has issues. Here's something important about both Goddard and KinderCare. They're designed to serve working families, which means they understand the realities of modern parenting. They're not going to judge you for needing full-time care or having complicated pickup schedules. They're built to be convenient and reliable, which has real value for busy families. But let's be realistic about potential downsides too. The staff turnover at chain programs can be higher than at smaller independent schools. Teachers might be less experienced or have less specialized training than those at philosophy-based programs. And while the curricula are research-based, they might feel more rigid or less individualized than what you'd find at smaller programs. The key to evaluating chain programs is to visit the specific location you're considering, not just rely on the brand reputation. Ask to observe during different parts of the day, arrival time, circle time, outdoor play, and lunch. Pay attention to how teachers interact with children. Are they warm and engaged, or are they just going through the motions? Ask the staff about turnover and teacher qualifications. How long have the current teachers been there? What kind of ongoing training do they receive? How does the center handle situations when teachers leave? Look at the physical environment too. Is it clean and well-maintained? Are the materials in good condition? Does the outdoor space offer real opportunities for exploration and physical challenge? And definitely ask about the hidden costs we mentioned. What's included in tuition and what costs extra? How much notice do you need to give for schedule changes? And what happens if your child is sick or you go on vacation? Academic versus play-based programs. All right, now let's tackle one of the biggest debates in early childhood education. Should preschool focus on academic skills or play-based learning? And honestly, this debate gets pretty heated sometimes with passionate advocates on both sides who are convinced they know what's best for all children. But here's the thing, like most either-or debates, the reality is more nuanced than the extremes would have you believe. The best approach for your child depends on their individual development, your family's values, and what comes next in their educational journey. Let's start with academic-focused programs because I want to address some of the concerns and misconceptions right up front. When we talk about academic preschools, we're not talking about 4-year-olds sitting at desks, filling out worksheets for hours. At least we shouldn't be. Quality academic programs for young children still incorporate play, movement, and hands-on learning. What makes a program academic is the intentional focus on pre-literacy and pre-math skills that will help children succeed in kindergarten. We're talking about letter recognition, phonics awareness, counting, pattern recognition, and fine motor skills needed for writing. These programs typically have structured lessons, clear learning objectives, and regular assessment of children's progress. Here's why some families choose academic programs. Kindergarten expectations have definitely increased over the past few decades. Children are expected to arrive knowing their letters and sounds, able to count to at least 20, and ready to sit still for longer periods of instruction. If your child will be attending an academically rigorous elementary school, some pre-academic preparation can definitely be helpful. Academic programs also appeal to families who see early learning advantages and want to maximize their child's potential. Research does show that children who start kindergarten with strong pre-literacy skills tend to maintain those advantages throughout elementary school. And for children who are naturally drawn to letters, numbers, and structured learning, academic programs can be incredibly engaging. But, and this is a big but, There are some real risks to pushing academics too early or in inappropriate ways. Young children's brains are still developing, and they learn differently than older children and adults. They need movement, sensory experiences, and social interaction to build the foundational skills that support later academic learning. When academic programs go wrong, you see children who can recite their letters but don't understand that reading is about getting meaning from text, or kids who can count to 50 but don't understand what numbers actually represent. Even worse, you might see children who develop negative associations with learning because they've been pushed to perform before they were developmentally ready. Now, let's talk about play-based programs, because there are misconceptions here too. Play-based doesn't mean children are just running around randomly with no adult guidance or learning objectives. Quality play-based programs are actually incredibly intentional about supporting learning through carefully planned activities and thoughtful adult interactions. In a good play-based program, children are developing all the same skills as in academic programs. They're just doing it through play. They're learning letter sounds through singing games, developing counting skills by distributing snacks, and building writing muscles through art projects and manipulative play. The advantage of play-based learning is that it matches how young children naturally learn. When children are engaged and enjoying themselves, their brains are primed for learning. They're more likely to remember information, develop positive associations with school, and build intrinsic motivation for learning. Play-based programs also tend to be better at supporting social emotional development. Children learn to cooperate, solve conflicts, regulate their emotions, and develop empathy through their interactions with peers throughout the day. These skills are increasingly recognized as crucial for school success, maybe even more important than early academic skills. But play-based programs have their challenges too. Parents sometimes worry that their children aren't being prepared adequately for kindergarten. Teachers need to be highly skilled to facilitate meaningful learning through play. It's actually much harder than it looks. And if the program is too unstructured or the teachers aren't intentional about learning objectives, children might not develop the skills they need. Here's what research tells us about this debate. And this might surprise you. Multiple studies have found that children who attend high-quality play-based programs often catch up to and sometimes surpass children from academic programs by second or third grade. Their early academic advantages tend to fade, while the social, emotional, and learning disposition advantages from play-based programs persist. But here's the key phrase: high quality. Both academic and play-based programs can be done well or poorly. A low-quality academic program that pushes children inappropriately can be harmful. A low-quality play-based program that lacks intentionality can leave children unprepared. So how do you decide what's right for your child? Start by considering their individual development and temperament. Some 4-year-olds are genuinely ready for and interested in more formal learning. They can sit for long periods of time. They're curious about letters and numbers. They crave the structure and challenge of academic activities. Other children, even very bright children, need more time to develop through play. They're still building attention spans, emotional regulation, and social skills. Pushing them into formal academics too early might actually slow down their overall development. Think about your child's learning style too. Some children are naturally systematic and enjoy step-by-step instruction. Others are more creative and learn better through exploration and discovery. Neither approach is better, they're just different ways of processing information. Consider what comes next for your child as well. If they'll be attending a highly academic elementary school, some preparation might be helpful. But if they'll be in a more progressive or play-based elementary program, you might prioritize social emotional development and love of learning over specific academic skills. Here's my advice for evaluating any program, whether it calls itself academic or play-based. Look for balance. Even academic programs should include plenty of play, movement, and hands-on learning. Even play-based programs should have clear learning objectives and intentional teaching. Ask teachers how they support different types of learners. How do they help children who are ready for academic challenges? How do they support children who need more time to develop? Good programs can accommodate both within the same classroom. Look for evidence that children are engaged and happy. If kids seem stressed, bored, or disconnected, that's a red flag regardless of the program's philosophy. Learning should be joyful at this age, even when it's challenging. And trust your instincts about your own child. You know them better than anyone. If a program feels like a good fit for their personality and development, it probably is. If something feels off, even if you can't articulate exactly what it is, pay attention to that feeling. The bottom line is this: both academic and play-based approaches can prepare children beautifully for kindergarten and beyond. The key is finding high-quality implementation of whichever approach matches your child's needs and your family values. So don't get too caught up in the labels. Focus on whether children are learning, growing, and developing a positive relationship with school and learning. In our next module, we're going to explore some specialized options like faith-based programs and parent co-ops. These programs often combine elements of both academic and play-based approaches while serving families with specific needs or values. But before we move on, think about where your child might fall on this academic versus play-based spectrum. Are they craving more structure and challenge, or do they still need more time to learn and play? That insight will help you guide your decision-making as we continue exploring options. Remember, there's no universally right answer here. There's only what's right for your unique child at this particular stage of their development. And sometimes what's right changes as children grow and develop. The goal is to find a program that meets them where they are and helps them take their next developmental steps with confidence and joy.